What's going on? I got buddy Dan on today. Man, we just got back from an awesome weekend, so I know I'm still pretty amped up. But how you doing, man? We're halfway through the week, time of the recording. What's going on with you, man?
Yeah, man. Speaking of that event, it was definitely a lot of value that Carl and Brandon dropped on that. But yeah, right now, honestly, dude, we're actually me and the team. I work for a solar company, so me and the team we're getting ready to ramp up. We fly out to California on Friday. So usually around this week is the time where we kind of just buckle down and we get all our team meetings situated. So I'm also trying to kind of figure out and make sure that I take care of my personal stuff here as well before I head out.
Oh, dude, I totally hear you. Where in California are you flying to?
So right now we're going to be hitting the San Jose area.
Oh, okay.
San
Yeah, I
Jose.
don't I don't know anything about California. I'm actually heading there Friday myself. It's my first time. I'm
Nice.
flying to San Francisco actually, so should be
Okay.
good.
Yeah. Yeah. Good for you.
Well, before we get like off topic here, would you mind? I know your story and a little bit about your background and who you are, but maybe some of our audience members might not know who Dan Flores is. Do you mind going a little bit into who you are, what it is you do, and how you help the people that you help?
Of course. So my name is Dan Flores. I am a mindset and life coach. I'm also a motivational speaker. I tie in a little bit into real estate, and I'm also, as I just mentioned, I'm the most recent thing I've done is get into sales, primarily in the solar industry, which is a pretty good opportunity for me. And really, my story is in the past, it was just pretty much like everyone else, right? I lived about the most average life that you can live. Right? I was just like everyone else growing up. I was told to go to school, graduate, major in something, right? And then find a career that will secure you for the rest of your life. So that was pretty much my backstory. Again, it was as much of an average life as you can live. But over time, it didn't take long until I joined the construction industry, believe it or not, is what I majored in, out of all things. So it didn't take me long until I got to that industry where I realized, yeah, I don't think this is going to work like for the rest of my life. So the
Mhm.
thing is, because I went to school for 7 years for this, it's something that I was trying to figure out if I could suck it up because I didn't want to sacrifice 7 years and then pay off for school and everything if I wasn't going to do that. So I was willing to give it a shot, but the more I stood in that industry, the more I wanted to get out of it, you know? So
Mm.
I knew over time it was not for me and that feeling wasn't getting any better. So I'm thinking to myself, well, if it's not going to be construction, what am I going to do for the rest of my life? So it's funny, it actually took a few years for me to figure this out, but my brother
So
actually got,
what part? Sorry to cut you off, but
no worries.
what part of the journey, like how far into like schooling, were you like, hey, I don't want to do this anymore, or when did it even click in? You're like, I don't even know if I kind of want to do this anymore. Did you get all
Yes,
the way through 7 years, or?
correct. Yeah. So I got through the 7 years. I actually got my internship on the last semester of school. And then that
Hmm.
internship is kind of what got my foot through the door in construction. That company kept me around for 2 years before I worked for a total of five construction companies. So, I've
Wow. So
kind
it
of
was
seen
like
it.
nine. So you basically were 9 years in the industry or learning about the industry, and then you were like, damn, I need to do something different.
Yeah, I was in it for about 10 years or so. But
Oh, wow.
I realized it wasn't for me at around probably year 2 or 3, right?
Oh, okay.
I already finished school. I was in the industry for about 2 to 3 years at that point. And at that point, I realized, man, this doesn't feel right, but I'm going to suck it up because I sacrificed so much to get to this point. Let me at least give it a
Mm.
chance, give it another year or two. But like I said, the more I stayed in that industry, the more I wanted to get out of it. It just didn't feel right for me. And what got me into construction actually, when I was a kid, I used to build a lot of things with my hands. You know, I used to help my dad remodel a house a little bit. So I was really good in terms like with woodwork and helping just helping out with repairs around the house. So that's kind of what got me into construction, you know, but
Mhm.
doing reno in a house is a little bit different than building an Amazon warehouse, you know,
Yeah.
so it's a little bit bigger of a headache. And then, so 2 to 3 years, I realized that. And then it's funny because when I was about 30, my brother got me my first entrepreneurial book, which was, the 10X Rule by Grant Cardone, right? That is
Hmm.
the first really entrepreneurial book I ever read. And that kind of created a chain reaction that led me into this entrepreneurial journey, right? So I started with that one book. I was hooked with it. So I started following guys like Grant, guys like Tony Robbins, Robert Kiyosaki, guys like that. And then I
Hmm.
went from reading books to buying online courses to attending networking events. And then that's kind of like it was just a snowball effect after that.
Mm, nice. And then what got you, what was the next step after that? Like, how did you decide that you wanted to get into solar and then mindset coaching and things like that? Because you wear a lot of different hats, man. You're doing a lot of different things.
Yeah, yeah. So at that time, I was into real estate,
Hmm.
but I kind of put real estate on the back seat at that point because I wanted to focus on other things. So I actually didn't get into coaching and solar until very recently. I actually got into that last year. But I actually started a print on the e-commerce business, a print on demand business for t-shirts, which is still running. And then going through these events, it's funny because even as I was getting into this entrepreneur journey, I still didn't know exactly what I wanted to do, what my purpose was. Like I knew it was coming, right? Like I felt a little bit better once I got into this side of the avenue where I started talking to other high level people, high credible people. And once I started doing that, like my mind just got creative. Okay, well, maybe you could do this or you could do that. So I actually met Brandon in an event in 2022, right? It was a marketing event. That's where I met Brandon. And go figure, he's from Connecticut just like me, which I didn't
Hmm.
know, right? And I'm like, oh man, this is crazy. Like after this event, we should definitely keep in touch. And uh, luckily, Brandon was throwing events here as well, which made it easier for me to keep in touch with him and attend his events and stuff like that. And through one of his events, I actually met Dylan Smith. And, now me and Dylan connected, and I went to a couple of Dylan's events as well. The first event of Dylan's that I went to is actually where I met my now coach, Sean Crane. And Sean is a really big catalyst into me becoming the man I am today, right? It's through him that I was able to figure out my online coaching program, come up with it, and just build it up. And now I launched it last year. And then the whole solar thing kind of just happened because I actually got out of construction last year. Last year was my last year in construction.
Mm.
And in Sean's group, there was this guy that was in the solar industry. Like none of this stuff was planned, right? I had no intention of going in the solar industry, but there was this guy that was on Sean's team, and he was like, "Listen, I think you'll be perfect for sales. I was in the construction industry. I still have a few contacts. I can get you in if you want." And I was like, sure, just, text me who to call. He put me in link with one of the other guys that he used to network with. And from there, one thing just led to another. And solar was like the newest thing that I was doing.
Mm, nice. Yeah,
Yeah.
you mentioned a couple of good buddies of mine. Dylan, he's been on the show. Brandon obviously has been on the show, and haven't had Sean on the show yet. But it's crazy that he became such a great influence in your life because Sean actually was a part of a group that I was in back in like 2020. So we knew each
Huh.
other back then, and we lost connection over the years. And then at Dylan's event, when we shared the stage afterwards, we were kind of talking. I was like, "Man, you seem so familiar. I feel like I know you from somewhere." And then
Yeah.
we like looked each other up, and sure enough, we were friends on social media. And
Nice.
it's just like the power of like coincidence, I guess. If you believe in coincidence, it's more of like just how crazy the small world is, and how connections help out in extreme ways. Like now you're traveling to California for the solar business, solely through connections on people. So.
Exactly. Exactly. I always tell the story that if it wasn't for Dylan, I would have never met Sean. And if it wasn't for Brandon, I would have never met Dylan. And that event that I met Brandon in, check this out, right? This was 2 years ago. I was actually contemplating on going to that event because I was still working in construction, and I didn't know if I could get the time off. I didn't know what my company thought about it. Actually, the timing of that was in the summertime, and construction usually higher in the summertime here in Connecticut. So
Mhm.
it wasn't really a good time for me to go, right? But I made the decision after going back and forth with the sales rep who was trying to get me into the event for a few weeks. After going back and forth with him for a few weeks, I finally made the commitment to buy my ticket. I booked my flight that day and I reserved my hotel that day as well. So I fully committed. And to think, if I never went to that event, me and you probably wouldn't even be talking right now.
No, yeah, that's so true. It's wild.
Yeah.
Um, so you're a big action taker. I can see, and just knowing you from the past year or two, you're always constantly go, 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 go. I wanted to ask you, have you always been like that, a type of person who just kind of like dives in and goes? Because I know you, when you commit to something, you go pretty hard with it too. So
Yeah.
share a little bit about that.
Yeah. So to answer your question, no, I was not always like that. As I mentioned earlier, and you actually asked me earlier, the type of people that can help. Whenever I connect with people, or whether through social media or in person, I always try to look for the younger version of me, right? The younger
Mhm.
version of me when I was either in high school or my early 20s was not an action taker. I was a procrastinator. In the summer times where we would be off from school, I would literally play video games till like 2, 3 in the morning, and I'd be sleeping till like noontime. Wake up,
Mhm.
eat a little bit, and then go right back to playing. Right? I had no goals or desires or vision to impact my life, let alone impact anyone else's life. As I mentioned, I lived the most average life possible where I didn't think about the future, and at that time too, when you're that young, you think you have all the time in the world, right? You're like, oh, I'll just do it. I'll do it next year. I'll do it next year. I'm only 19. I'm only 20. Like, I don't have to take things seriously until I'm 30, but now that I am in my 30s, I really wish I didn't do that. So
Mhm.
whenever I connect with someone, I really try to feel them and hear the story out, because if they're anything the way I was, then I'm the perfect guy who can help them out with that for sure. And then, like I said, once I got to this whole personal development thing, that's really when I started to implement the proper daily habits, right? That's where really like my mindset shifted little by little, and I started to take things like working out seriously. I started to get up earlier,
Mhm.
go to bed earlier, wake up earlier. um, I started writing my goals down, figuring out what my goals are. And because the thing is too, my parents are actually getting older, dude. So it's really up to me and my brother to kind of carry on our family's legacy and put our family in a good position in the future. So it was really time for me to buckle down and really figure out exactly what I'm going to do for the rest of my life, because it was at that point it was a serious decision I had to make, you know.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah. You mentioned routines and habits and kind of getting into working out and fitness. I know that's been a big part of your life.
Mhm.
What can you share about how training kind of has helped build mental and physical resiliency with you
Yes.
specifically?
Yeah. So let me start off by saying that in my opinion, the most important habit you could ever build for yourself is fitness, is working out, right? Because working out helps you out in so many areas in your life. If you think of it from a physical level, obviously your muscles get stronger, bone density gets stronger. You just become better mentally as well, right? Mentally, you have more confidence, you're more aware, you're more alert. If you work out in the morning, which is what I recommend, is working out first thing in the morning, it sets you up for the rest of your day, right? So you get to use that energy and motivation. It reduces stress level, it reduces anxiety, it reduces depression, right? Because the more confident you feel about yourself, the better your life is going to turn out, right? And it's funny
Hmm.
because lately I've really been tapping in, working out to my spirituality as well, because the more I believe in myself, the more I'm going to believe in God and what He's doing for me, and that He's putting me in the correct path. If I show up at the gym, then if you're able to show up at the gym, then you can show up for your family, right? So really, working out is it's funny. I was talking about this earlier, how there's people who work out, and then there's people who really work out, right? There's people who
Hmm.
kind of just go in there and, well, let's see how today goes. Let's see if I'm going to make it. And then there's people who actually go in there with a mission and a purpose and the intention to not just work out, but to change their life, right? Because if you look at fitness beyond fitness, you have to look at it in terms of you're building a lifestyle, you're building your future,
Hmm.
right? So that's the way I see fitness. And that's why I go all in when I'm at the gym, from the minute I start to the minute I finish. I go all super in, man. It's not really an ego thing. It's not because I want to be loud at the gym or show off at the gym. I'm doing it for me so I can show up, become the best version of myself for those around me, anyone that I can inspire, and especially my family.
Yeah, dude, I love that. I love that so much. And if you remember from my talk this past weekend, I use fitness as the first pillar for my coaching program as well. And not just because it helps people lose weight and get in shape and get stronger, but it builds that confidence and competency in yourself. So then once you build that trust within yourself, then you can start to put trust in others, and others people can put the trust in you. And it's the first step in building relationships, whether it's business, personal, whatever it might be. So I totally agree with you on that. Let me ask you though, because starting fitness, starting getting into the gym, it can be intimidating and it can be crazy. And I try to tell people all the time that you don't have to start with a home run. You don't have to start with a marathon. Like what can you do to kind of get rolling? Like you got any experience in just kind of rolling through with things?
Yeah, so a couple of tips. Number one, very, very important because this is very common, especially for beginners. You have to, the gym is no place for your ego. You have to leave your ego at the door, right? You have to understand that you are going to make mistakes, that maybe you're not going, you have to over time and experience, you're going to figure out like a workout plan and stuff like that. But in the beginning, you might not really know what you're doing, and that's okay. So there's a few ways to get around that, right? uh, Always having a workout plan is always a good idea, right? You don't want to just go in there and not know what you're doing or how you're doing it. So you could do that a couple of different ways. You could do your own research. What I recommend is just hiring a fitness coach, right? And if you don't have the money to hire a fitness coach, there are people at the gym, believe it or not, who will be happy to give you tips, right? The gym
Hmm.
isn't like it can be intimidating, but believe it or not, dude, there's people at the gym who get it, man. We all started somewhere. We were all beginners at some point, right? So if you just if you what I would say is figure out who's crushing it at the gym and start hanging around those people. Start asking those people questions, right? And like I said, you can either get a coach or you can just train with the people or from the people that are there. But
Hmm.
definitely get your ego out the way. Don't be afraid to ask for help. Don't be afraid to ask for a spotter. I mean, there's people who are like shy to even ask for spotting, so you definitely want to make it a point to be friends with the people at the gym for sure.
Yeah. So what did you do when you were first getting into the routine of things? Did you just jump out and day one and like running 100 miles and then lifting 500 pounds? Like what was it like for you when you first started out?
Yeah, so believe it or not, actually, when I first started working out, I did a little bit in high school, but when I really started working out, like in my early 20s, I actually started with in-home training. I did like the whole P90X, I did
Mhm.
Insanity, I did all those home programs. So, and then over time, I started going to the gym, and that's basically what I did. I just started to connect with the people there. And what I would do actually is I would watch certain people do certain things, like certain moves or exercises, and then I'll remember that. And then if I was ever doing those same things, I would like kind of like, okay, how are their feet planted? How much weight are they carrying? How are they bending their arms or their legs? So I would be very observant at first when I was at the gym to see who's doing what and what workouts can I implement, right? And then from there, I
Mhm.
started to talk to them a little bit more. Hey, I saw you doing this. Can you spot me real quick on that? And then when it comes to the marathon, actually, that's a whole story in of itself. When I was in high school, dude, we had those mile runs, right?
Mhm.
Those tests we had to do, and before the actual test, we would always do practice runs to kind of prepare us. We did that for a couple of weeks for about a month or two. And at that time, I was only lifting weights. My cardio sucked. I was not a runner. I was not properly conditioned at all. And every time we would do these practice miles, dude, it would get annoying because I couldn't finish 1 mile without either stopping or throwing up afterwards. I became
Oh, wow.
extremely nauseous. Yeah, just because it wasn't something I did every day, dude. It just wasn't. The only time I did it was just to practice for the test. So, and the thing too is that we would always have lunch after we ran after gym class, and I never went to lunch like the rest of the kids because I was just nauseous. I didn't really want to eat, so I was kind of either in a classroom or in a nurse's office trying to recover. And
Uh,
that's kind of what traumatized me from running at all. I spent the rest of my teens not running, all my entire 20s not running at all. And what happened was that the moment that changed that was last year, 2023, I made the commitment to become the best version of myself. So I'm doing kind of like this self-check on certain things that I have to conquer, certain challenges that were stopping me. And of course, one of them was running. And I'm like, damn, like, how can I get around this? Like, I just kept thinking about high school. I'm like, man, I really don't want to run. I really don't want to go through that. But I knew deep down inside I had to face that fear at some point. So what I did was I started by running 1 mile, right? So I would do 1 mile, not do my own pace. I wouldn't be rushing anything like that. And I started
mhm.
by doing 1 mile, and I'll do that for a couple weeks. And then I'll do 2 miles. I'll do that for a couple weeks. And every few weeks I would add a mile or two. And it took about 2 months or so. I started getting into the 5 miles, the 8 miles, the 10 miles. And it's funny because once I got to the 10 miles, the 1 miles were like nothing to me, right? And this is me reflecting, right? Literally, I'm thinking about this stuff, and it's man, how can this happen? And it's only been a few months, and it's not like I've been running for years, you know?
Yeah.
So once I hit the 10 mark, right? I was thinking to myself, I was like, I had the craziest idea. Why don't I join a marathon? I'm like, oh my God, this is not happening. I'm like, why am I thinking this? So I actually started off by running two half marathons to prepare for the full marathon. I did two half marathons, completed those, felt fantastic. And then at that point, I signed up for my full marathon, ran that, and it was incredible. I'll never forget the feeling I had when I crossed the finish line in a 26.2 mile race, right?
Wow, dude.
Where earlier in the same year, right? This is within a time span of 10 months. Earlier that year, I couldn't even run 1 mile. And
That's crazy, right?
now I'm crushing 26. But
Wow, dude.
I got emotional at the end. It was an emotional moment for me, for sure.
I bet, man. Well, first of all, congratulations because that's a feat in and of itself.
Yeah.
And I totally understand that. It's like you just have such an overwhelming feeling of accomplishment and pride and excitement, and your body probably feels like crap because it's like destroyed from all the miles,
Yeah.
but like at the same time you're still happy and joyful. So that's insane. And that must have been huge for your confidence too. So that must have just elevated your game to the next level too, right?
Yeah. It's funny because I was thinking to myself as soon as I was across the finish line, actually on my way home from the marathon, I'm thinking to myself, I'm like, if I can do this, what else can I do? So now I'm starting to create like a checklist. I'm like, what else can I do? Well, I'm afraid of heights. So what I did was I started rock climbing to take care of my
Mhm.
fear of heights. I was nervous speaking in front of crowds. So what did I do? I joined a public speaking school, right? I started doing live videos on Facebook and Instagram. I'm doing
Mhm.
podcasts like how I'm doing with you. I'm trying to get myself more out there. So it's crazy. Once you gain confidence from one thing, that can really build momentum to attack other things as well that's holding you back.
Dude, I love that too because I'm in the process. I mentioned it in my talk when I was talking about the fitness and how that I prioritize that as the first pillar because it builds the three C's. And I go on to talking about how I've already mentioned confidence. That's your ability to do something. Competence, which is like other people believing that you're going to be able to do something. And then also creativity. Because once you start achieving these goals, you develop that new sense of creativity. Like, ooh, I did this. How can I create something or how can I go for something that's a little bit further? And you're
Yeah.
like the perfect example of that. You're like, damn, what can I knock off next? You're like, afraid of heights, boom, rock climbing. Public speaking, I'm going to do lives all day, all the time. I'm going to join public speaking. Like, dude, you're the perfect representation of that. That's awesome.
Yeah, I
I love
appreciate it,
that.
man. Thank you. Thank you so much. I always
So,
appreciated your support, Rob.
so what's the next goal that you're working towards now? Because you conquered public speaking, you conquered running, you've conquered some heights. What are you working towards now?
Yeah, so a couple of things. I made it a goal to do 50 podcasts this year or more. My goal is to do more, but 50 minimum. Again,
Nice.
to kind of get out there and share my message. I think a lot of people could gain value from some of the stuff they have to share. That's one thing. I also plan to run more marathons as well. And
Cool.
I would actually like to do some Spartan runs, some Spartan races, just because I want to do something different. I don't want to keep doing marathons. I want to kind of diverse myself and do other things as well. Obviously, I want to keep traveling, which includes going to California, South Solar, and just continue promoting my coaching program and just help people. Honestly, my goal this year, dude, in a nutshell, is to drop so much value and get in front of so many more people to hear my message. That's really my biggest goal this year.
Man, I love that. Yeah. And I'm glad that you said the Spartan race too, because a couple of years back, I put together a team and I think there was like 12 of us in total, and we did a Spartan race. And it was a challenge in itself, prepping for it, but then also running it too, because we had people from all different skill levels
Yeah,
and athletic ability, and it was a fun time. So, um,
yeah,
I'll let you know because I got a couple people asking me about doing another Spartan race this year. So if you're interested in joining us, it would be awesome to have you with us on the team there.
yeah. Just let me know ahead of time just to make sure I'm available because I do travel a lot too. But yeah, we could definitely link up for that for sure.
Oh yeah, it'll have. Well, if I figure out a good date, I'll let you know. It'll totally be months in advance because I got to make sure that I plug out a fitness routine and gets everybody going because you don't want to show up race day unprepared, right?
Yeah. Oh no, of course not. 100%.
Preparation's key.
Yeah,
So
exactly.
yeah. So you were mentioning how that you want to drop a lot of value this year. You've got the goal of getting on all these podcasts and sharing your message.
hmm
Um, but like, so what is the message that you're looking to share? Is it more about like the mindsetness, or is it about like something else, or what are you looking to share with everybody?
Yeah, so if you think about what the average person does nowadays, and again, I think about the way I used to be, right? A lot of people in today's society, it's unfortunate, but a lot of people think averagely, right? They have an average life. They don't really plan for their future or have any goals in mind. And basically, my message to people is that it's really important, and they should, I recommend, to put yourself in a much better position, put yourself in a much better advantage where you have a vision for the next 10 years that will help implement your life and excel you in so many different ways, right? But in order to do that, you have to create the proper habits. You have to create the proper self-talk. You have to go to have goals, not just to have them, but they have to be big enough and they have to complement the future that you want. Because a lot of people, their goals don't match the life that they want, right? They just have these big goals for this year. Okay, but how does that tie into 10 years from now, right? Are you
Mm,
becoming your elite self physically, mentally, emotionally, socially, right? So again, my message for people is just to become the a better version of themselves, hopefully the best version. And I really think I can help them out with that because again, I seek people who used to be like me, right? And we're not purpose driven, right? They're not think 10 years ahead, right? And if I knew then what I know now, I'd be in a completely different situation. But
mm.
I really, my goal is to help people that were like me so that they don't have to wait 10, 20 years to get to that point. You know what I mean? And I really want to mention this as well. I mentioned earlier taking the ego out of the gym, right? You also want to take the ego out when it comes to something like this, right? There is nothing wrong with asking for help. Anyone who has ever been successful in life has never done it by themselves. I don't care what they say, right? They either did it with a team that they created and they trusted over time, or they did it by collaborating with other people, similar to what me and you are doing right now, right? But in order to I guess, find a shortcut to this type of better life, if you will, you got to be able to work with other people. You cannot do this by yourself, right? Now, you can, and it's going to take you the rest of your life, or you can collaborate with as many people as possible to help you get to that journey much quicker. Does that make sense?
Oh, dude, 100%. I got a buddy of mine who used to be a really close friend, and he was working his typical 9 to 5 job, and then he started a side hustle, and he was doing this thing, and he got in such a terrible mindset that nobody could answer the emails better than he could, or no one could answer emails like he could, and
Yeah.
it totally bottlenecked himself in his business. And I'm like, dude, like you can't do this all by yourself. Like you're at a point now where you're not making as much money because you're not handling the inflow of orders. Like this is the time where you need to expand. You need to systematize and get some other people in to help you. and he was just so frustrated and fixed on nobody can do this as well as me. And I'm
Yeah.
like, dude, there are a lot of people who can answer emails. Like, that's not that difficult. Like, and he just got stuck in that way. And he's like, I'm going to do this myself. I got the lone wolf mentality. I'm going to make it. I'm like, dude, you're not going to make it. I'm sorry. But he could just never get past that. And he's currently in the same situation.
Yeah, yeah. It's unfortunately you know, a lot of people are like that. Like we all secretly we all think that we're like the best or whatever, right? We always, but the truth is that there's always someone better than you, right?
Mm-hmm.
Now, we're always going to have in our back of our minds, if we're bringing other people into the team and we're training them to kind of fill a certain role, it's always going to be on the back of our minds. Oh, what if he messes this up or then messes that up? But first of all, they're not going to learn unless they do it, right? And then also, it's very important that whoever you bring into your team shares your core values. All right, that's very,
Mm-hmm.
very important. They have to link up with you, not just physically in the workspace, but they have to link up with you mentally, emotionally. They have to believe what you believe in. Right, that's the easiest way to find people that can fill the role that you're looking for.
Yeah. So let me ask you, what are your core values?
What was that?
What are your core values?
Yeah, so my core values is fitness, mindset, and relationships.
Oh, yeah.
Right.
See, and I love that you were so well prepared with that, and that's such a strong part is the knowing your core values. But if you were to just go ask, I guarantee you that like 8 out of the 10 people that you ask on the street, they're not going to have any idea of what their personal core values are. So as
Right.
somebody who actually I like spent a lot of time thinking about what my values were. And it was difficult at first because I wasn't sure and I didn't know how to figure that out. But for if someone came to you and they were asking like, how do I figure out what it is that I find valuable? What do you tell them as like the first steps?
Yeah, so in order to you kind of have to reverse engineer it. In order to find out what you value now, you have to and this ties into the vision thing I mentioned earlier. You have to figure out what type of life you want to live, right? Because you can't once you figure out where you want to go, you have to reverse engineer it to figure out the type of person you need to become now, right?
Mm,
And within that journey, once you have that picture painted, it's going to be a little bit easier to find out what those core values should be. If those core values are not, if you're not currently implementing though, that's okay, but figure out what they are first. And then you have to literally live. It has to be like the air you breathe. You have to live by those core values no matter what. And sometimes that's going to include adjusting your daily habits. Sometimes that's going to include removing certain people from your life, right?
mm,
But your core values is literally what's going to keep you going as you get towards this vision that you painted for yourself.
mm-hmm. Nice, dude. I love that. Clarifying it up a little bit for me there.
Yeah, of
I
course.
want to ask you. I want to ask you a little bit because you you launched that your new coaching. Can you share a little bit about that and like what can people expect in your coaching and how does it flow and just share a little bit about that?
Sure, of course. So my program is called the Warrior Mindset Program, and it's an online course. It's a 16 video course where I also include exercises as well. So it's not just watching videos and that's it. You actually have to think about certain things. And in that video, we go over things like the future foresight method, which is basically a fancy way of saying paint a picture of what you want your future to look like, and then like what we just said, right? Reverse engineer it from there. There's certain steps, certain questions you have to ask yourself in order to be able to do that. We also
Mm,
go through something called the Go Pyramid method, which is a method that allows you to define what your goals are, how to keep track of them, and how to achieve them in the future, right? Because goals is heavily underestimated, and it's one of the biggest things you can ever do for yourself. We also go through, I speak a little bit about the 7 areas of life because believe it or not, a lot of people, and we don't always do this on purpose, but most people focus on 1 or 2 areas in their life, but they don't focus on all of them. They let the others suffer. So for example, you could be great in fitness. You could go to the gym every single day, but you're not showing up for your family, right? Or you can make all the money in the world, but your mindset isn't really that great, right? So if you want to live the best life possible, a fulfilled life, in my opinion, you have to be able to master all areas in your life. So I speak a little bit about what each area brings and how to tie into that stuff. And then we speak about proper self-talk, diving into your why and how you can use your why as pretty much your superpower to keep you going. And we talk about many, many other topics. And pretty much what I do as well is I train them I train them directly as well. So they get me as a coach. We'll hop on
Hmm.
a call a few times a week, make sure that they're aligned with everything that's in the program.
Oh, very cool. So you get the courses, you get the videos and the exercises, and then you get the coaching calls with you.
Correct. Yeah. So my goal
Awesome.
is to hop on a call with people at least once or twice a week. It's very important it's not just here's the course, good luck, right? It's very important for me as a coach to make sure that they succeed. It's my job to help them succeed, right? So
Yeah.
to have
Yeah, I
that
can see
in,
it.
go ahead.
I was gonna say, yeah, I can see accountability is a strong part of who you are working
Mhm.
with your mentors and like Sean Crane and just getting connected with a lot of other individuals. So I can see that accountability to yourself and to somebody else is very important to you and probably your coaching.
Yeah, yeah, 100%. It's very important because what happens is if you don't stay on top of the people you're coaching, they're going to fall off, and you don't want to do that, right? You want to provide them with the best service, the best value, and you want to be pretty much you want to be able to help them change their life, and that's really it's a long journey. It's not something that's going to take 3 months or 6 months. You really have to stay with them, make sure they succeed in it. So.
Yeah, it's your life, and you should be investing in it and taking good care. And then the people that you look to get advice from and learn from, it just makes it so much easier when they genuinely care about you and your success. I'm sure you've come into contact with people in the past, maybe who've just like they're just there to take the money, and they're like, all right, cool, thanks, see you later, kind of thing. And that's just disheartening to the coaching industry as a whole. But then
Yeah.
it's just a shame on a lot of these people because they get taken advantage of.
It is too, and it's funny because what also happens is when you don't have one-on-one connection, like people can have a ton of questions and they might not know how to handle it, so that's another way where they fall off, right? So this way, where I have coaching calls with them either on the phone or through Zoom, I can help them or help multiple people with the same issue. You know, it's
Mm.
very, very, very easy to stay on top of that stuff, but you have to be able to stay connected with the people you're training.
Yeah, I love that. Speaking of staying connected, dude, what would be the best place for people to tap in and contact you and follow you and what you're doing and reach out to you if they're interested in coaching?
Yeah, so the easiest way is through Instagram. My Instagram handle is Dan Flores Lifestyle. Very simple, Dan Flores Lifestyle. And if there's any way that I can help you guys, if there's anything that I mentioned that you guys are struggling with, just shoot me a DM. I'll respond quickly. We'll figure out what the issues are and how I can best serve you.
Boom, look at that, man. Like he's offering some free help right there. Just reaching out, just touch base with him and he'll get you on the right track. He's got an incredible coaching program. He's developing his message. He's getting out to wider audiences and tapping into bigger things. This guy's got a lot of energy. He's a go getter. This Dan, dude, I appreciate you and I respect you for taking the time out of your busy day and busy week to hop on here. And I do want to be courteous of your time, so I don't want to take up all of the rest of your afternoon here. So I got to ask you, man, if we were to boil it down to one piece of advice that someone could use in order to survive the side hustle and live the fulfilled life that they deserve and need, what would you say that piece of advice would be?
Yeah, the one piece of advice that I would give is the one piece of advice that I wish I had when I was younger. And that's that it's probably a good idea to invest in yourself, right? And invest in yourself early. Whether that's through personal development, so investing in yourself and your body, whether that's through coaches or mentors, whether that's through maybe in other investments like real estate, or you always want to be able to invest in yourself to some degree. And I wish I knew this back then, but investing will definitely put you in a much better position. The sooner you can do it, the better. There's nothing wrong with investing in your future. I think a lot of people, though, what the issue is, they either don't know what to invest in or they don't know when to invest, right? And the answer to when is right now. The answer to what is start by investing in yourself. Read books, connect with people. Go if you could go to live events, great, because that's really that networking event is really going to what's going to be able to open the doors for you guys. I mean, if it wasn't for the networking events, I wouldn't have met all the incredible people I met recently in my life.
Yeah, I love that. That reminds me of a quote. It's like, when's the best time to plant a tree? And the correct answer is like 20 years ago.
Yeah,
I feel like, and the second best time is right now. And I feel like
exactly.
that goes hand in hand with the investing in yourself. So yeah, some
100%.
powerful things there, and it's definitely a huge takeaway right there. So make sure that you're investing in yourself, guys. And like Dan said, man, reach out to him, hit him up on social media, see what he's got going on, what he's doing, and follow him. This guy's doing everything. He's an number one action taker. He's a go getter, and he's an animal out there. So again, Dan, thank you so much for taking the time, and I'd love to have you back on the show in the future, dude.
Of course, Rob. Thank you so much for the opportunity, and thank you so much for your followers who are listening to us. Thank you so much.
Of course, man. Peace, 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 guys.